Okay, going back to greatest common factor, it's actually the reverse of the distributive property. I need to emphasize that. Okay, so here's my answer here. If I distribute my greatest common factor, I end up with the product. So factoring is reversing the distributive property, okay, which means it's also reversing foiling. Okay, so if we jump forward, not that far. All right, we're talking here. What we're going to be doing is kind of unfoiling. All right, so if we look at these two factors here, if we were to foil them, right, we would do first, outer, inner, last, right? That would be foiling. Okay. And I would get first x times x is x squared, and I do the outer ones, and I get minus 7x, inner ones plus 2x, last ones minus 14. Right, and you combine these together, right, the middle terms, so I get x squared, and you add these together, so you get minus 5x, and then you get minus 14. So notice to get the c, that was where you're multiplying the 2 times the negative 7, that gives you c. Okay, and then to get the middle term, to get b, right, we added together, we combined these like terms to get a negative 5. All right, so it was a sum. All right, so we're going to remember that when we're unfoiling, when we're factoring. All right, so let's go to the next thing. I've got examples of, I'm going to factor these. So this is a product, okay? It's, I want to unfoil it. I want to see what the two factors are that would equal that. All right? My leading coefficient is 1. All right? A is equal to 1. B is equal to negative 16. And C is equal to negative 17. It's called a quadratic because it's to the second power there. And it's a trinomial because it has 3 terms, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if you have a quadratic trinomial with 3 terms here, all right, it's very easy to factor. It's like a fun game, all right? What I'm trying to think of are, I'm going to 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 17 and add up to be negative 16. Okay, I kind of have this X band to help me organize it. So let's see, what are the things, what multiplies to be negative 17 and it's going to add up to negative 16? Well, if I have negative 17 times positive 1, that equals negative 17, right? And if I add them together, that gives me negative 16, all right? So I would have 2 factors here, and it would be x minus 17 and x plus 1. All right, and notice if I multiply the last terms, the a times the c, negative 17 times 1, I get c, all right? And if I add the middle 2 terms, all right, negative 17x plus 1 gives me negative 16, all right? So, as if I were to FOIL this, all right, if I were to FOIL this, and I'll go ahead and use the box method, if I take x minus 17 times x plus 1, and I multiply it together, so x times x is x squared, and then negative 17 times x is negative 17x, and 1 times x is x, and 1 times negative 17 is negative 17. All right, I get x squared. Where is that? Good, so you can see it. Back to my original problem. I have the x squared here, so there's that. And then in here you have negative 17 plus 1 is negative 16, and then you have a minus 17. So if we were to multiply these two factors together, if we FOIL this, we get that. So that means these are factors of this product right here. Okay. All right, now looking at the next one. All right, again, I've got my leading coefficient is a 1. All right, my leading coefficient is a 1. So A equals 1, B equals negative 8, and C equals 12. Okay, so, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to factor, so I want to know what two numbers I can multiply together to get this product. All right, and to help me out, I'm going to do this x. So I've got, I know I want them to multiply to be c. Okay, and I know I want them to add up to be negative 8. So what two numbers multiply to be 12 and add up to negative 8? Okay, so how about negative 2 and negative 6? If I multiply them together, I get a positive 12, and if I add them together, I get a negative 8. So my factors would be a minus 2 and a minus 6. All right, and if I check it out, all right, that was unfoiling. If I actually foil it, I'll go a minus 2 times a minus 6. A times a is a squared, right? Because 1 plus 1 is 2. And then this would be negative 2a, and then I've got a times negative 6, so it's negative 6a. This is a negative times a negative, so that would be positive 12. Alright. So notice that gives me a squared, check. If I combine negative 6 and negative 2, that's negative 8, and then I have a positive 12. Right, so if I FOIL these two factors, I get this product. All right. So now over here I have a quadratic, right? So the second power is a trinomial because I have 1, 2, 3 terms. All right, and my leading coefficient is 1. So, my x here, so I want them to multiply to be 10 and add up to be 7. I want two factors, multiply to be 10 and add up to 7. Well, how about 2 and 5? 2 times 5 is 10, and 2 plus 5 is 7. To get x squared, that's x times x is x squared, right? 2 times 5 is 10. And 2 plus 5 is 7. If I'm going to box it, I would say x plus 2 times x plus 5. Alright, and so x times x is x squared, right? I'm adding my exponents. 2 times x is 2x, x times 5 is 5x, and 2 times 5 is 10. Now I'm going to combine any like terms that I have. So x squared is just x squared. 2 plus 5 is 7, and then I have the 10. Okay. So this times this equals this product. Factor times factor equals your product. right? So we'll keep going here. Okay, I've got a trinomial. A is 1, B is 12, C is 35. Right, so I want them to multiply by 30 to be 35 and add up to be 12. So two numbers that multiply to be 35. So how about 5 times 7 is 35 and 5 plus 7 is 12. So those are my two factors. X times x is x squared. 5 times 7 is 35. And then to get the 12, I have a positive 5 and a positive 7. And if I box it, I have x plus 5 times x plus 7. And then I've got x times x is x squared. 5 times x is 5x. X times 7 is 7x. And then that's 35. Okay, and then again, combining my like terms. Got the x squared, I can't combine it, but these I can combine. 5 plus 7 is 12x. So there's my middle term. And then I've got the 35. And you'll see why we're practicing with the box when we get down to our grouping method, because sometimes the coefficient, the leading coefficient is not 1 and it's a little trickier. For example, this one, the leading coefficient is not 1, but I want it to be 1. It's so much easier if it's 1. So this is your reminder, oh, what about the GCF? All right, look for the greatest common factor. If you want it to be 1, try to make it be 1. Well, 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And 45 divided by 3 is 15. So that is, I can get rid of that 3. I want to get rid of it, and I can, because it's a common factor. So 3 divided by 3, oh, but don't forget about it. So now I have, bring down the 3, and then I have x squared. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2, and then that would be negative 15. Okay. Now I have a leading coefficient of 1, right? And I have a trinomial. 1, 2, 3. So I'll make my x. I'm looking for a negative 15 for the product, and then I'm looking for a minus 2 for it to add up, all right, for my sum. So 15, 3 and 5, right? The difference will give me 2. Now I just need to check my signs. One has to be positive, one has to be negative. Well, I want to have a negative 2, so it's going to be a bigger negative, more negative than positive. So it'll be negative 5, right? 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So my factors are going to be, I've got the 3, keep bringing down the 3 so you don't forget about it. And then I've got x times x is x squared. And then to get the 15, it's going to be 3 times negative 5, right, is negative 15. And so this has to be a positive 3 and a negative 5. So that will get a negative 15. And then also I want to have a negative 2 for my sum. And so I can box that. Just to check. So I've got x plus 3 times x minus 5. And then x times x is x squared. 3 times x is 3x. Negative 5x. And negative 15. All right, combine my like terms. So I've got the x squared. These are the only ones that, oh, I forgot my sign. That's a negative 5, right? Negative, this was negative. So that's a negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. And then that's a negative 15. Okay? So this will be my final answer. Do not forget that first GCF that you divided out. Same thing here, right? I don't want to have a 2. So I'm going to look to see if it's the greatest common factor. If they're all even, then yes, 2 goes into every even number. So 2, 2, 2. Well, I don't know anything about qubits, right? I want that to be quadratic, right? I want it to be quadratic. So that's another clue that, oh yeah, they all have an x. So let me divide out 2x. And then I've got a quadratic trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. All right, but you need to remember to bring down that 2x, those factors, so you don't leave them off. This was a trinomial, so you're going to end up with a trinomial inside when you divide out that greatest common factor. All right, we're just undistributing. So here we go. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. So I have x squared. And then I have a plus. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And then 2 minus 1 is 1. And then 32 divided by 2 is 16. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay? So now I have a quadratic trinomial, right? Just like I wanted. It's a great problem-solving technique, right? Solve the problems that are easy. Make it easy. Make it something you can solve. Take a big problem, make it into a small problem. So here we go. Put leading coefficient is 1. I want them to multiply to be 16 and add up to 8. So what would that be? How about 4 and 4? 4 times 4 is 16 and 4 plus 4 is 8. So x times x is x squared. 4 times 4 is 16 and 4 plus 4 is 8. And then don't forget the 2x. Okay, and then you can always type this in to your calculator and make sure it's equal to this original. All right, you get the same, you'll only get one graph if they're exactly the same. And that is factoring a quadratic trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1.